What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to talk about Ant-Man. I finally got my Ant-Man hero pack last night, and that meant that I could sit down for, let's just say, longer than my wife would probably want me to when there's two young children in the house keeping us up all hours. I was up till the early hours of the morning just playing Ant-Man games over and over again, and we're going to do our review today, but spoiler alert, I'm in love with Ant-Man. Let's just say there's a couple of hero packs I probably would have gone to bed at a sensible time. Ant-Man didn't let me. Although while we're here, I do have to say, for those of you located in the UK, the last two hero packs I've ordered off Chaos Cards, and I've paid for next day delivery to try and make sure they can get here on time. And both of them, despite paying next day delivery, have turned up, let's say, significantly late. Which is why my reviews are late. This Ant-Man review should have been up 2 days ago, but I literally only got my hero pack yesterday afternoon. So, let's just say if you want to be ordering from them, I would maybe find somewhere else to order it. My personal experience, and I can't tell you what to do, all I can do is share my personal experience. You're your own people. But my personal experience has been, my reviews are going up late because I'm ordering from the wrong website. I wouldn't recommend it personally. So Ant-Man then, why am I in love with Ant-Man? Now, of course, one of the cool things is that Ant-Man is the very first, well, what we would refer to in Transformers as triple changers. We've got 3 different modes. We've got Alter Ego, Tiny Hero, and Giant Hero. And flicking between them is so much fun. Now, Scott Lang has got a recovery of 3, which is standard, hand size of 6, which is standard. Hit points of 12 is actually higher than we've seen from a lot of heroes, and I appreciate that, because there were a couple games yesterday where I went to 10 or 11 health, or damage, I suppose. One of the things I've found when playing Ant-Man, I don't go to Scott Lang very often. Now, that might just be me, that might just be my way of playing. When you flick to Scott Lang, when you change to him, you heal 1 damage. But I found I had other ways of healing that were better. I very, very rarely switched to Scott Lang when I was playing. Now, that might just be a playstyle thing. I'm an aggressive player by nature. Lovely, calm person, but an aggressive player. Well, I mean, it's not really for me to judge, but I think I'm quite lovely and calm most of the time. I'm certainly cheery a lot. But I didn't go to Scott Lang very often, because I love both the hero modes here. Tiny Ant-Man, you go down to a hand size of 5, which is still fine. It doesn't feel that bad. In this deck, I rarely felt disadvantaged when I had a hand size of 5. You then end up with defense of 2, which is pretty good, thwart of 2, which is fine, and I'll be honest with you, attack of 1 is bad. If you're attacking with Tiny Ant-Man, you're not having a fun time. But when you change to Tiny Ant-Man, you remove 1 threat from a scheme, and I adore this. This is brilliant. A lot of the time, if you're staying in hero mode, and with Ant-Man I do end up staying in hero mode more than I do for a lot of other heroes, when I'm in hero mode, the villain's putting 1 scheme on per turn, plus any random stuff they pop on. And I played against a bunch of villains yesterday. There were some other threat going on here and there. But generally speaking, if they're putting on 1 threat per turn, I flick to Tiny Ant-Man and I remove 1 threat. It meant that although I was thwarting here and there, I rarely felt that I had to. Now, Giant Ant-Man I'm in love with. You do go down to a hand size of 4, and hand size of 4 is very low. Scott's got 6, Tiny's got 5, Giant's got 4. But it's so good. When you change to this form, you deal 1 damage to an enemy. And although you got a thwart of 1, which is terrible, you've got attack of 3 and defense of 3, both of which are high. So you've got great defense, great attack, and you deal a damage when you flick to the mode. This is cool. But the thing is, there are some other cards in the Ant-Man pack which really reward you flicking between modes. And I was flicking between forms a lot, and you will be too. Now, one of my favourite cards in the set, you get 2 copies of the card Resize. It is a 0-cost card that changes to your other hero form, so you cannot swap to or from Scott Lang. It's tiny to big or big to tiny. But it's a 0-cost event, you change to your other form and draw a card. Really, the card you play just replaces Resize, so it's just a free flick to your other hero form. But bearing in mind, when you flick to tiny form, you remove a threat from a scheme, and when you go to giant form, you deal 1 damage. So you're not just going to your other mode, you are getting that. But remember, you're allowed to swap once per turn anyway, so you can essentially go to tiny Ant-Man, remove a threat, and then use your switch for the turn to go back to giant Ant-Man and deal a damage, and this is in addition to all the cards you're actually playing and your attack, etc. I love it. But as far as I'm concerned, the best card in the Ant-Man pack is Ant-Man's helmet. It is a free cost upgrade, but bearing in mind, even if you're in giant mode, you draw 4 cards, or until you've got 4 cards, so even if you don't have any double resources, you just use a free you drew to play Ant-Man's helmet. It's phenomenal. Because after you change to giant form, you heal 2 damage, bearing in mind you're already dealing 1. And when you go to tiny mode, you draw a card, bearing in mind you're already removing 1 threat from a scheme. So if you've got Ant-Man's helmet in play and you play resize, you are going to remove a threat from a scheme, and you're going to draw a card, and you're going to deal a damage, and you're going to do 2 damage, assuming you flick to one hero mode and then back to the other, and that is without really paying any resources whatsoever. It is fantastically powerful. It really is awesome. Now, there are a couple of other cards here, and really, I like the Ant-Man suite. I think it's brilliant. I'm not that sold on the Justice suite you get with it. I think it would be more fun playing Aggression, but I think the Ant-Man cards are beautiful. One of my favourite here is Army of Ants. It is a 1-cost support, so playing these is easy, and there's 3 of them in the deck, so you can have 3 of these out. And when you're in tiny hero form, you may exhaust it to deal 1 damage to an enemy. But bearing in mind, because I'm not going to Scott Lang very often, I am either starting in tiny form, and then I can use it, or I'm starting in giant form and I'm probably going to flick to tiny form and then I can use it. So when I've got 2 or 3 Army of Ants out, I find I am using them literally every turn. Now, for those of you that have played with the core set, you'll have probably played against Ultron. And the hook of Ultron is that encounter deck is constantly spawning 1 attack, 1 scheme, 1 health drones. Well, if you've got Army of Ants, if you've got 2 or 3 Army of Ants, I played a couple of games against Ultron, and now there was that card that puts them up to 2 health drones, and actually 2 of them came out at one point, and they were 3 health drones, and that sucked, though I did win the game and it was alright, but it was a lot more dodgy. But while Ultron's sitting there just spawning 1 health drones, Army of Ants will absolutely have your back, and it's beautiful. Now, to be fair, there is also the card Hive Mind. You can only play it if you're in tiny hero form, and there is a hero action whereby you remove 2 threat from a scheme, 1 additional threat for each Army of Ants support that you control. So you will sometimes be able to remove 5 threat from a scheme. But honestly here, because you're constantly removing threat with Tiny Ant-Man, and because I'm just not going into Scott Lang very often at all to let the villain scheme, and you got a thwart of 2 on Tiny Ant-Man, I very rarely felt like Hive Mind was needed. I thought that Ant-Man, if you stay in hero mode, and you just flick between them, I thought Ant-Man was very, very good at controlling the scheme. Playing in normal difficulty, it was extremely rare that the villain managed to get to the second phase of their scheme. It really was that good. Now, Giant Stomp is another one that I adore. You can only play it in giant hero form, but it's a free cost event that deals 1 damage to each minion. Again, if there are any Ultron drones, they all go down. And 8 damage to an enemy. And this is ridiculous. And it also combos beautifully with Giant Strength. Now, Giant Strength, after you changed, it's an upgrade, 1-cost upgrade. Again, a lot of the cards are very cheap here. Giant Stomp is a free cost, and Ant-Man's Helmet is a free cost. Most of them, a lot of the ones you play are like 1. They're really nice here. It's why Ant-Man Giant hand size of 4 doesn't usually feel that restrictive. But what it does, after you change to Giant Hero form, you get +1 attack. But it's not limited, and there are 2 in the deck. So if you get both of these out, then you go to giant form, you got an attack of 5. If you've got an attack of 5 and an event card that deals 8 damage, let's just say you can deal a lot of damage very, very quickly. There were turns I was dealing 15, 20 damage with Ant-Man, and I was playing it out the box like I tend to do for these reviews. If you played an aggression deck with Ant-Man, and that is definitely something I'm going to be testing over the next couple days, I get the feeling Ant-Man aggression could be one of the very, very best heroes in the entire game. Ant-Man for me is up there in my top 5 heroes, bearing in mind I love a lot of the heroes in this game. So any hero that cracks the top 5 for me, I would count as a full-on proper job phenomenal hero. Now, the last couple cards we need to look at in the Ant-Man suite, there is a signature ally here. It is Wasp. Free cost to play normally, free health is fine. 2 thwart or attack with 1 consequential damage each is what we're looking for. You don't usually get more than that. Doing 2 for taking 1 damage is good. Being able to thwart or attack equally is good. And after Wasp enters play, you deal 2 damage to an enemy if you're in giant hero form, or remove 2 threat from a scheme if you are in tiny hero form, which is essentially double what their ability would be when you flick to that particular mode. So again, it's another way of controlling scheme or dealing extra damage. I found Wasp to be a very, very nice ally. We've also got Pim Particles here. A couple copies of this. It's an any type resource, and it is just a resource card. But after you spend it, you heal 2 damage if you're in giant hero form, or draw a card if you're in tiny hero form. Generally speaking, as you can see, tiny hero form is removing threat and drawing cards. Giant form is healing and dealing damage. And this is why I don't end up as Scott Lang very often. Between Pim Particles and Wasp and Resize and all of that, and especially Ant-Man's helmet, I just really don't feel the need to go back to Scott Lang very often at all. The last card here is Wrist Gauntlets. It's a 1-cost upgrade with an action. If you're in giant hero form, you can exhaust it and spend 2 physical resources to stun the enemy. In tiny hero form, you can spend 2 energy resources to confuse an enemy. Nice card, but I'll be honest with you, I rarely ended up using it because I usually had other places I wanted to spend my resources. But it's really nice in an emergency. Now, we're not going to spend too long looking through the Justice suite that comes with it, because I know a lot of you might want to check it out. I will say that just in terms of the Ant-Man suite, it is amazing. I am absolutely in love, but we'll look at the Justice quite quickly. So, Hank Pym Ant-Man is a 0-cost ally. Again, you've got the same 2 thwart or attack with 1 damage, which is nice. You get +1 hit point for each Pym counter on it. Essentially, you pay up to 4 resources to give him up to 4 hit points. And that's how many uses you have. One of the things I love about Ant-Man for Hank Pym is just being able to pay 1 resource, put him down as a 1 health ally, knowing that there's a big attack coming just so I can use him as a blocker. Giant Man I am not a fan of. It's a 5 cost and I very rarely got Giant Man into play. I like the 2 thwart, 2 attack with 1 damage for you, but 5 cost, 4 health I'm not loving. And, okay, fine, if you've got 3 or more remaining hit points, you got an attack of 4. So that will give you 2, essentially, uses of that. But the fact that you've only got 4 health and you're a 5 cost, it was rare that I got Giant Man into play. A lot of the time, he's too expensive. Ronin gets +1 thwart and +1 attack while there's an upgrade on him. And that's great, but you can't always get the upgrade. 3 cost, 3 health is fine. 2 attack taking a damage is fine. 1 thwart taking a damage is not good. Ronin is an attacker. If you can get an upgrade on and you've got 3 health and you're attacking for 3, only taking 1 damage, I love it, but that doesn't always happen. Stinger, I'm a fan. She doesn't count towards your ally limit, so it's an extra 1 there, which is nice. And the 1 thwart, 1 attack taking a damage isn't great, but you're a 1 cost, 2 health ally. So the reality of Stinger is, you play her, you thwart or attack, and then she's just there to defend. And that's what you do, and that's absolutely fine. Now, there's 3 copies of Call for Aid, and I'm not sure how I feel about this card. It's a 0-cost event, but you discard cards on the top of your deck until you discard an Avenger ally and add that ally to your hand. If you're wondering, all 4 of the allies and Wasp all count as Avengers, so all the ones in the deck out the box will be Avengers. The problem is, as much as it's a 0-cost card and you swap it for an Avenger, which is cool. And there is a fun little play here. You can actually use it to try and swap your physical resource for, say, a lightning, so that you can confuse using risk gauntlets. I did that a couple of times. But most of the time, you're just digging for an ally. The problem is, you're digging. And when you run out of the hero deck, you deal an encounter card. So be warned, this can backfire. Moxie is a 0-cost card that after you change form, your hero gets +1 fort, +1 attack, and +1 defense until the end of the round, which is lovely. And bearing in mind, you can combo this with giant strength, so that you've actually got, well, really quite high attack there, which is absolutely lovely. I'm a big fan of the combo. And it's a 0-cost card, which is cool. Power Gauntlets is one of these attachments we talked about, or an upgrade, I should say. You attach it to an Avenger ally, and after it attacks or thwarts, you deal a damage to an enemy. Now, I do actually like this one quite a bit. Again, against Ultron, this was taking out drones. It was beautiful. Extra damage is good. And especially if you're using an ally 2, 3, 4 times, that is an extra 2, 3, 4 damage for one upgrade. I like it. Plus, it's pinging damage. So if the villain's got a tough counter on and you just want to poke to get rid of the tough counter, this, or indeed Army of Ants, these are good ways to ping off tough counters. One of the things you find about Ant-Man out of the box is, it is great at getting rid of tough counters without having to attack. We've also got Reinforced Suit. You attach it to an ally, and you get +2 hit points. Really, it's a 1-cost upgrade to give you 2 more uses of an ally. That is awesome. If you can get this on Giant Man, and you get it on early, you get 2 more uses of the attack of 4, then it's brilliant. If you can get Giant Man into play early with Reinforced Suit, that is a great combo, but it rarely works. We've then got First Aid that heals 2 damage from any character for 1 cost, which is fine, it's nice and cheap. And Swarm Tactics, which lets you, as a 1-cost event, change to your other hero form, so not Scott Lang, Tiny to Giant, or Giant to Giant. That wasn't how it's supposed to say. And then you ready your hero. You must have Wasp in play to do this, and the Wasp Hero Pack hasn't been released, but do remember it will work if you've got your Wasp ally on the field. Now, I do want to quickly, before we finish here, have a very quick chat about the Nemesis set here. It is Yellow Jacket, and I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit weird. Yellow Jacket itself really doesn't worry me. It's not one of the worst Nemesis minions you've come across. 2 scheme, 2 attack is fine, but not terrifying. And the 4 health is honestly not that high. Most of the time when Yellow Jacket came out, I was able to just take it straight out. Now, while you're in Giant Hero form, Yellow Jacket gains Retaliate 1, which is fine, I suppose. And in Tiny Hero form, he goes up to 3 attack. But because of the 4 health, I found most of the time Yellow Jacket just gets taken out quite quickly. It didn't terrify me. What did was the side scheme Tech Theft. Now, it only comes in with 2 threat per player, so it's quite quickly taken out. But the printed text box of each tech player card is treated as blank. Now, that turns off a couple of things here, but mostly it turns off Ant-Man's helmet. Doesn't turn off Army of Ants, which is lovely, but it turns off Ant-Man's helmet. And that is my favourite card. I think it's the best card in the entire Ant-Man deck. You have been warned. Now, there are 2 copies of the attachment size increase, where you attach it to Yellow Jacket, and it goes up to 4 scheme, 4 attack, 5 attack if you're in tiny mode. And now it's getting a bit more terrifying. It only works 3 times. So after the enemy activates, you remove a size counter. You put 3 size counters on. After 3 activations, it goes away. Yeah. If you can't attach it to Yellow Jacket, you attach it to the villain, and then that can actually be really terrifying, because that's kind of, over the course of the next 3 turns, that's an extra 6 damage or 6 threat. That is pretty big. You've been warned. But it's only if it comes out, and a lot of the time it's not going to end up on Yellow Jacket anyway, because you're going to take Yellow Jacket out so fast. There is also a treachery card here, Yellow Jacket's Plan. When it's revealed, you discard cards from the encounter deck until a card from the Ant-Man Nemesis set is discarded and reveal it. But bearing in mind, Tech Theft is going to be in play, and Yellow Jacket is going to be in play, So it's just going to find a size increase. Unless the encounter deck has been reshuffled after Yellow Jacket or Tech Theft has gone into the discard pile, then it can come out again, to be fair. So, I'll be honest with you, I'm not particularly terrified. I don't think it's one of the more terrifying minions, because honestly, Tech Theft having 2 scheme on it, or 2 threat on it, and Yellow Jacket having 4 health, I generally just took them out most of the time. I would just take out Tech Theft, take out Yellow Jacket, and just carry on with my game. Ant-Man as a whole, I am loving. As far as I'm concerned, it's a 5 WOSSY hero pack. Have I been giving WOSSY scores to them? I'm going to be doing so in the future. I absolutely love Ant-Man. It is right up there with my favourites that we've seen so far. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to be playing a lot of Ant-Man going forward. I think it is absolutely phenomenal. And if any of you have been sitting on the fence about whether to get Ant-Man or not, it is a very, very strong recommendation from me. But now it's over to you guys. Have you played it so far? If you have, please tell me what you think about it in the comment section. If you haven't, please tell me what you think about it having seen it in this video. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy. That's where we talk Marvel Champions and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching WOSSY Plays.